Speaking of the World Economic Forum, let's throw to a clip, Mark, of their illustrious, fearless leader. That would be Klaus Schwab, and hear what he has to say about the oncoming Great Reset.
By saying we are at a turning point of humankind. I think we should not underestimate the historical significance of the situation we are in. We know the world will look differently when we move out, hopefully as soon as possible, from the acute phase of the virus into a new situation. So people assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again in how we are used to normal, in the old fashion. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen. The cut which we have now is much too strong in order not to leave traces.
Well, Mark, I think the only thing missing is some Angora cat on his lap. Then he's got the full James Bond villain look down pat. But, you know, I mean, the entitlement of these individuals, Mark, I mean, he's a non-elected, unaccountable, I don't know what, really, a doomsayer. And he's talking about, well, basically, there's a quote in your book, "Welcome to 2030. I own nothing. I have no privacy. And life has never been better." This is chilling, Mark. Do you see this coming to fruition with the likes of Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum and useful idiots everywhere following their advice?
We are now not just worried about the coming imposition of a Great Reset. We're actually living through a Great Reset. COVID-19 and the global lockdowns and mask mandates and vax mandates and the stay-at-home orders and the canceling of weddings and funerals and the masking of our children and the forcing of medical procedures on a public that didn't want them. This was the beginning. In fact, in June of 2020, when all these lockdowns began, Klaus Schwab announced that this was the time for a great reset of capitalism. We had a rare, narrow window of opportunity, and they are building upon the net zero climate goals. What their goal now, and we're seeing this everywhere, they are making energy shortages common. They are making vehicle shortages, your automobile shortages, a reality by insisting upon the end of the internal combustion gas-powered engine and diesel engine, forcing everyone into electric, which can't possibly scale up to replace it. So they want to create shortages of vehicles. They're creating food shortages. This whole net zero, Great Reset, World Economic Forum agenda. We're watching high yield agriculture being scaled back in the Netherlands and Sri Lanka and Canada and Australia and the United States. Bill Gates is buying up, competing with China for American farmland. People worried about a Chinese land monopoly of farms in the US. Well, don't worry. There's a competition. We love competition, right? Bill Gates versus China. Bill Gates is actually winning and is now America's largest single farmland owner. The question is, who do you want to win that battle, Bill Gates or China? I got to give some pause there. I'm not sure who the good guy is in that equation.
Yeah.
So all of this is happening. They're creating the world of their vision. This is no longer fiction. As in the words of Klaus Schwab, it's happening. Food shortages, freedom of movement, airline restrictions, meat rare and expensive, and of course travel restrictions, and then all sorts of shortages across the line, supply chain, economic calamity, and small and independent businesses being crushed in favor of corporate chains and big corporations that'll go along with this woke Great Reset agenda.
No, and when you say Bill Gates versus China, Mark, that reminds me of the tagline for the movie Aliens versus Predator, namely, no matter which side wins, we lose. But
That's right.
I want to speak about Bill Gates, and I think this man is shameful because here he is, he's all on board in this great reset and giving up our belongings and eating insects. This man used the system of capitalism going back to the 1970s when he started Microsoft, became one of the world's richest individuals, and yet he now wants to destroy that which made him so wealthy, so entitled, so that no one else can follow in his footsteps. I think this is entirely hypocritical, Mark.
It absolutely is. In his own lifestyle, you can look at it. The week in January of 2021, he came out and said, it is not a time to be traveling, to be going out, to be going to restaurants. We need to keep these lockdowns going. That same week, David, he was making a bid on the world's largest private jet transport company that he wanted to own. In other words, it wasn't going to affect he and his friends. They were going to be able to travel around the world, do what they wanted. He's going after the common man. Now, if you look at his Microsoft, he benefited from a monopoly. And ultimately, what the Great Reset is pro-monopolistic. They are trying to get a monopoly of power, monopoly of food, monopoly of energy, monopoly of freedom of movement, monopoly of wealth, monopoly of property, and that's what they're after. The idea is you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Well, wait a minute. Someone's going to own that. We're going to be renters, serfs. We're the unwashed masses. We're going to be renting the properties from equity asset firms, Bill Gates, China, and large corporations that are buying up these distressed properties as regulations designed to crush them. The biggest irony here is Bill Gates buying up the farmland. We know what they're trying to do with our food. They're making food rare and expensive treat by shutting down high yield agriculture. What's going to happen when we start facing real serious food shortages? You know what's going to happen. They're going to blame the coming food shortages on climate change and claim they predicted it all along, and then require more such regulations, which will create more food shortages, which they'll double down and say is caused by even worse climate change. This is the insane loop we find ourselves in 2022.
Indeed. And speaking of 2022, what's so chilling, Mark, I don't know if you've ever seen the film. It was shot in 1973. I speak of Soylent Green, which was set in the year of 2022. And my God, it was prescient on so many issues, food shortages, the idea of not only is suicide legal, but it's actually encouraged by the government. There's so many things about that film that was shot decades ago that they got right about the real 2022. But the thing is, so much for leading by example, Mark, because while they say give up all your belongings, that you'll own nothing and be happy, Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, all the rest of them, they're not giving up their their limousines driven by a chauffeur. They're not giving up their carbon spewing private jets. Again, I am just astounded by how tone deaf they are and how hypocritical they are.
It is absolutely amazing. And in the book, I detail all this hypocrisy. I mean, Bill Gates, his own property, I believe it's like, I don't have the figure in my head, but I think it's like $35,000 a month for electricity bills. And he has huge square footage and multiple homes. And yet they're the ones. Bill Gates' vision for the world, he said at the next pandemic, if you wanted to fight it, do what Australia did. Perhaps the most authoritarian country next to China and Canada. I don't know. Actually, that's another one. Who was more authoritarian, Trudeau's Canada or Australia? I'm not sure.
What you just saw was an excerpt from my nightly Ezra Levant show. It's behind the paywall at Rebel News Plus. Sorry. What you just saw was an excerpt from my nightly show. Again, ready? What you just saw was an excerpt from my nightly show, the Ezra Levant show. Every weekday, I do a monologue. Usually it's about half an hour. Then I interview an interesting guest, and then we read my hate mail or my fan mail, whichever is more fun. It's only available behind a paywall, though. That's how we pay our bills here at Rebel News. We don't take a dime from Justin Trudeau. But the good news is it's only $8 a month, about half the price of Netflix. And in addition to my nightly show, You also get weekly shows from 4 other friends here at Rebel News. So you're getting 36 shows a month just for $8. I think it's worth it. And even if you're not quite sure, do it anyways, because we rely on viewers like you to keep us free and independent. I promise you I'll never take a dime from Trudeau. Just go to rebelnewsplus.com and click subscribe. Thanks.